was 21 and eager for independence, which led me to a modest house in a desolate part of Oklahoma. The surroundings were barren, a sea of emptiness stretching as far as the eye could see, where abandoned buildings loomed like forgotten monuments to solitude. The neighbors were an enigmatic puzzle. Their gaze followed my every move, eyes filled with a palpable sense of caution. As day turned to night, they disappeared into the shadows of their homes, leaving the eerie stillness to reign supreme. Midnight marked the haunting ritual. Every night, a symphony of knocks danced upon my door, each rap a harbinger of the inexplicable. But it wasn't just the knocks. It was the silence that followed, a silence so dense it seemed to have a life of its own. The whispers, barely audible, caressed the air like a sinister lullaby. I convinced myself it was the imagination of an overwrought mind until that fateful night when reality bled into a nightmare. A man, his face contorted with desperation, hammered on my door, demanding a knife he claimed to have left in my bathroom the day before. My heart raced, pounding against my chest like a prisoner seeking escape. I barricaded myself inside, trembling in terror, and called the authorities. As the police swept through my home, the bathroom revealed no trace of the intruder or the alleged weapon. Fear twisted within me, a noose tightening with the realization that my solitude harbored unseen threats. Was it a malicious game, a concoction of paranoia, or an ominous truth lurking beneath the surface? The boundaries between reality and the macabre blurred, leaving me trapped in a house that felt more like a haunting, where the thin veneer of normalcy was torn asunder, plunging me into a realm where the inexplicably ruled supreme and my very sanity hung in the balance. I moved away from home with a desire for freedom and an eagerness to explore life beyond the familiar confines of my childhood. The gleaming promise of independence led me to a budget-friendly shared flat nestled in the heart of the city. It was a quaint space, adorned with the excitement of newfound autonomy and the thrill of youthful aspirations. My flatmate, Alex, seemed amiable at first. A charming, laid-back individual with a penchant for late-night conversations and the occasional shared meal. Yet, beneath the facade of camaraderie lurked an enigmatic shadow, a subtle aura of secrecy that hovered around Alex like a shroud. It started with hushed phone calls in the dead of night, conversations veiled in cryptic codes and whispered assurances. I brushed it off initially, attributing it to the eccentricities of urban living. But the fragments of unease continued to linger, a constant hum at the back of my mind. The turning point arrived one fateful evening when I returned home to a scene straight out of a nightmare. Alex lay sprawled on the living room floor, a haunting tableau of bruised flesh and blood-stained clothes. Fear clawed at my throat, rendering me motionless as I took in the severity of his injuries. His eyes, usually filled with a carefree sparkle, now bore the weight of unspeakable terror. "Don't involve yourself," he rasped, words dripping with desperation. My heart pounded against my ribs, torn between the instinct to flee and the gnawing guilt of abandoning someone in distress. I fled into my room, the walls closing in around me, suffocating in their silence. The fear of being entangled in Alex's murky affairs gnawed at my conscience, a relentless storm raging within. Sleep eluded me, replaced by the incessant echo of his pained whispers. Days turned into a haunting semblance of normalcy, yet the specter of that night lingered like a malevolent presence. I scoured the depths of my thoughts for a resolution, a path out of this nightmarish dilemma, but the fear of reprisal, of entangling myself in the web of his troubles, anchored me in a suffocating limbo. When the lease renewal approached, I faced a harrowing crossroads. Stay and risk being drawn further into the abyss of Alex's secrets, or sever ties and flee, forfeiting the deposit that symbolized my meager foothold in this new chapter of my life. I chose the latter, driven by a primal instinct for self-preservation. With trembling hands, I penned my resignation, surrendering the deposit, a small price to pay for the elusive taste of freedom. But the weight of guilt and fear, of leaving Alex to his own devices, weighed heavily on my conscience. As I packed my belongings, a chilling realization dawned. I was fleeing not just from a shared flat, but from a haunting uncertainty that trailed behind me like a ghostly specter. The streets outside felt unfamiliar, their once inviting embrace now a labyrinth of unknown dangers. I wandered through the city's throbbing heart, haunted by the remnants of a bond severed by fear and uncertainty. The deposit, a trivial loss in the grand scheme, felt inconsequential compared to the burden of guilt that clung to my every step. I sought refuge in the anonymity of a new neighborhood, hoping to outrun the haunting memories of that shared flat. But the chill of unease lingered, a constant reminder of the price paid for evading the enigma that was Alex and the murky depths of his clandestine world. And now, as I navigate the bustling streets, the echoes of that fateful night resonate in the hollow chambers of my mind. The choice to flee remains a haunting testament to the frailty of human resolve, leaving me teetering on the precipice of a reality tinged with the bone-chilling uncertainty of what might have been and what horrors may yet lurk in the shadows. The suite I called home was nestled in a weathered New York building, its time-worn walls echoing secrets and shadows of bygone eras. Amidst this urban tapestry, a peculiar figure lurked, a neighbor whose presence cast a sinister pall over our lives. The old man, Mr. Withers, was an enigma wrapped in the tattered cloak of age. His nightly ritual was the stuff of whispered rumors. Like clockwork, he'd prowl the dimly lit corridors, checking each door as though guarding secrets hidden within the wooden confines. Whispers of his penchant for eavesdropping on neighbors' conversations circulated like a chilling melody, lending an air of discomfort to the building's collective consciousness. Doors closed, in hushed reverence, conversations muted behind barriers of fear. One fateful evening, spurred by a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, I confronted Mr. Withers. The meeting was an unnerving affair, a frail figure cloaked in shadows, his rheumy eyes gleaming with an unsettling knowingness. I implored him to cease his intrusive habits, my words trembling with a blend of fear and defiance. His response was a mere twitch of the lips, a semblance of a smile that sent shivers down my spine. "My dear boy," he rasped, "knowledge is power, and here, power is my currency." The encounter left me unsettled, a knot of dread tightening in my chest. Despite my attempt at bravery, fear coiled within me like a serpent poised to strike. And the rest of the neighbors, perhaps consumed by their apprehensions, chose silence over confrontation. Days passed in a miasma of unease, the specter of Mr. Withers looming large in the communal psyche. The once familiar corridors became labyrinthine passages cloaked in shadows, each creak a haunting reminder of the old man's presence. I found myself ensnared in a web of paranoia, my mind a battleground between the urge to confront and the instinct to flee. But the looming darkness that veiled Mr. Withers rendered the latter an impossible feat. Each night, as the city slumbered, the air thickened with tension. Doors that once shut with reassuring clicks now whispered open as if beckoned by invisible hands. Muffled conversations seeped through the walls, a disconcerting reminder of the old man's reach. I sought solace in the company of my own fears, unable to shake the suffocating grip of uncertainty. The once vibrant cityscape now harbored shadows that danced with malevolence, each passing day plunging me deeper into the abyss of dread. And then came the night that shattered the fragile semblance of normalcy. A blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, echoing through the corridors like a harbinger of impending doom. Rushing into the corridor, I beheld a sight that would haunt my dreams. A figure, bent and broken, lying sprawled at Mr. Withers' door. The old man stood, a macabre silhouette against the flickering hallway light, his eyes glazed with a haunting emptiness. Fear and revulsion mingled within me, an unsettling realization dawning that the whispers had come to life. The authorities were called and questions were raised, but answers remained elusive. The shattered figure was taken away, leaving behind a void of unanswered questions and a chilling silence that settled over the building like a shroud. In the aftermath, The building stood as a silent witness to the horrors that had transpired. The whispered rumors took on a darker hue, painting the tragedy with shades of malevolence and untold secrets. And Mr. Withers? He vanished without a trace, leaving behind a legacy of chilling tales that lingered, etched into the walls of the old New York suite.